Hi, everybody. Dan Illman, Mike Beer, the DRF race of the day for Sunday, December the 4th, race number 7 at Del Mar, the Grade 1, $400,000 Matriarch, fillies and mares going a mile on the turf. Let's take a look at this field. Please scan the QR code for race of the day access on mobile. It's a big field. It's a competitive field, but the horse they're going to have to beat if she brings her best, Mike, is the 6 Regal Glory, dropping out of a couple of races against males. If she brings her A game, she's going to be real tough. But can you make the argument that the Regal Glory we've seen in her last couple isn't the one we saw over the spring and into early summer? Maybe she's tailing off a bit.
You could make that argument, I guess, Dan. I don't know that I would agree with you if you made it. This is a pretty good field. I do think that Regal Glory's the horse to beat in here, though. You're right. I guess she does have to show up with her really good race. Personally, I thought her loss 2-back was excusable in the First Lady, just, sort of sitting off of her stablemate who was loose on the lead. I still thought she ran well to be second. Listen, the Breeders' Cup Mile was a tough race for her anyway. She had an impossible trip in that race. If she gets a better trip in this field, and it looks like she can certainly do that, she's going to be real tough.
She does have a good tactical speed. She got forward in the Breeders' Cup Mile, but she was just hung out to dry wide on both turns. In this race, according to the Timeform US pace projector, Hamwood Flyer is going to go, the number 5. She's pure speed, but Regal Glory might be able to settle into a fine position in second. And if Hamwood Flyer finds this class a little bit tough, Regal Glory will be breathing down her neck when it counts.
Yeah, I agree. I think she can get the right kind of trip in here. The 5 is certainly going to the lead. She's just a fast horse. And it looks like a horse who maybe isn't the easiest one to take a hold of either, Dan. So even if nobody goes with her, this pace could still be fast.
Trainer Graham Motion has had a very good record with horses shipping west. He's got Bipartisanship, and that's how it worked last time out in the Catherine Crosby. Let's watch Bipartisanship win in this restricted stake. The trip eventually is going to work out. Down towards the inside is Bipartisanship. In behind horses is going to ease outside and is going to run by them late. This horse has always been a little bit underrated, Mike, and I wonder if she's racing herself back into form, her third start since the spring.
Yeah, this is a good performance. She got a great trip in this race, but she also ran really well. I mean, you could tell from the backstretch that she was going to be tough in here if she managed to get clear, and she did get clear. She won very easily. The horse that you saw running second to her there, Goals for Kittens, also back in here. And based off of that effort that we just watched, Dan, Bipartisanship is a way more dangerous horse than Goals for Kitten is. Does she have to improve a little? She probably does, but she's pretty good.
And she should get the right pace setup, as you alluded to early on in the pace projector segment. Bipartisanship likes to have something to run at. There wasn't a ton of pace last time out. She'll get faster splits here while facing tougher horses. England's Rose is very interesting for John Sheriffs. We're going to watch her most recent race. This is the Golden Cova. Now, keep in mind, this is her first race since early May, and I wonder if they were using this race as kind of a prep, Mike. England's Rose was behind early. The pace wasn't fast, and the winner of this race, Going Global, who's now retired, is very, very good.
Yeah, Going Global 1-5 in this race. All in all, the trip worked out for England's Rose, but she was never going to win chasing that horse through the stretch. I still thought that she ran very well, Dan. I think there's an argument to be made that longer is better for this horse. When you watch a race, especially when they go a distance of ground, she just seems like she gets stronger as time goes on, but she's still run well at a mile in the past. She might have pace in front of her here. And I actually think she's a little underrated. If they go fast in front of her, you're going to know her late.
And I think she's going to gain a lot of fitness from that most recent start, and she's going to get likely a better pace scenario, as you mentioned. Eddie's New Dream is next. She's stretching out in distance off a win against fellow Calabreds. She loves down the hill racing at Santa Anita. She wins her second stake going down the hill in this start, and she did some good things considering the horse on the lead, Legs Galore. A is odds on, B is very fast, isn't going very fast on the lead, and Eddie's New Dream, despite failing to change leads, kicks her down.
Yeah, it's a very game one. I like this performance from her. It kind of makes me wonder, Dan, if she's just, sort of a little bit of a better horse going shorter. And also, obviously, these are Calbred horses. And so she's stepping back up in class. I feel like the only reason that I don't like her more is because of that Wilshire when they ran her in the grade 3 over this distance back in May. I mean, she ran fine in there. I didn't think she ran as well as England's Rose, who finished just behind her in that race. And, I think you can really question whether she classes up against a field like this.
We saw the number 4 Gold for Kitten finish behind Bipartisanship and the Catherine Crosby. And you mentioned that you'd rather have Bipartisanship coming out of that race. But could you make the excuse that Gold for Kitten was a little bit short? Heck, we hadn't seen her since February, and it was her first race off of a lengthy layoff.
Yeah, absolutely. You could make that excuse for her, especially if she's a big price, which it feels like she's supposed to be. If you're going to give her that excuse, then I guess then you have to go back and look at her prior races on the turf and try to decide if you think those races make her good enough. I personally don't. She ran fine in that race last time, but she has to run way better than that against this field.
Up next is the 5 Hamwood Flyer, and this horse is pure speed. She's won 3 of her last 4 starts. Let's watch the restricted swing time stakes at Santa Anita. Hamwood Flyer stumbled a bit leaving the gate. That didn't dissuade Mike Smith. She was 5 in front in the blink of an eye. She keeps on going. This was a really nice pace ride from Smith, who went slow early, really opened it up on the backstretch and dared them to catch her.
Yeah, exactly. All 3 of her races since she arrived in Southern California, they kind of look similar, Dan. She has really good speed. Not that it looks like she's, a runoff in the early stages. And then she just really picks things up the backstretch, opens up a big lead. And then it's all a question of, whether you can come and catch her late in the race. This is a pretty big step up in class. So she's going to have to bring her absolute A game to beat this field. But I feel like when you just look at her on paper and watch her races, you have to think she's a dangerous horse in here.
Regal Glory, the number 6, is up next for trainer Chad Brown, and she's earned triple-digit Beyer speed figures in 6 of her last 8 starts, a multiple Grade 1 stakes winner this year at middle distances. Good second in the 4-star Dave without excuse against the boys. They ran her in the First Lady 2 starts back. You mentioned that race. Her stablemate, an Italian, just got loose. Regal Glory was running at her late, and again last time, that wide trip just didn't work out against some really good males.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, listen, are her last 3 races her best races? They're probably not. I still feel like she ran okay in both the 4-star Dave and the First Lady, and I just can't care about the Breeders' Cup. Dan, it was a tough spot for her anyway. There was no way she was beating that field. With the trip she pulled, she actually ran pretty well. She was still in contention down to about the 8th pole before she threw it in. I don't know. I think she's the horse to beat, but at a short price, I can take a shot against her.
And we've seen one of the also-rans from the Breeders' Cup already come back and run well beyond brilliant, placed in the Seabiscuit last week with a triple-digit Beyer. Wakanaka came close to Regal Glory on Belmont Stakes Day in the Just a Game, and if you throw out her race against the boys in the Woodbine Mile, she seems to show up every time. Now, she ran in a listed stakes race on Breeders' Cup weekend in the Fall Harvest, and this is her running style. She was last early, she gets to the outside, and she produces a very strong kick.
Yeah, much the best in this race. Just Joe Rosario just sat on the rail and last until they reached the upper stretch. Then he finally swung her to the outside. She just charges right over the top of this field. A really good performance. I really like this field again. I think she's good, and I think she has the potential to still get better. The Just a Game where it was, relatively close with Regal Glory, it's at least worth pointing out there was a wicked pace for her to run into that day, and she ran pretty well.
Dalika finished 6th in that last race we just saw, and she came back to win the Grade 3 Cardinal at Churchill Downs with a 97 Beyer. Wakanaka always has a puncher's chance. I expect her to be kicking late for Rosario and Bill Mott. Pizza Bianca is another horse that would benefit from a fast pace. She just didn't get that last time out in the Sands Point. It was her first race since a Royal Ascot excursion, and I wonder if Pizza Bianca was using that race as a prep for the Matriarch, Mike. She was kind of last on the rail on the second turn, got to the outside, made a brief run, flattened out. I think she'll be a lot tighter here.
I think you're right. Fair to look at her that way for sure, Dan. She's still so lightly raced that I think you have to hold out some hope that she could finally take a step forward. Won the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies Turf last year with a ride from Jose Ortiz. They've just sort of worked perfectly exactly when it had to, and she got the job done. I still question, how good she actually is. It's very interesting, though, that Clement's shipping her out here for this.
It's nice to know that she can win at Del Mar. That Breeders' Cup win came at Del Mar. Dolce Zel is up next. Dolce Zel just ran 3rd in the Lake Placid, and Dolce Zel just sat behind Haughty, who went gate to wire in that race. Let's watch Dolce Zel. Trip's okay, down towards the inside in here. She broke very well. I think maybe she could have even made the lead if they were aggressive with her. They let Haughty get to the front. Dolce Zel finishes an okay 3rd while being down and behind.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, she didn't really have much of a chance in here. These are a couple of good horses in front of her too, Dan. I thought she ran really well in here, with a trip excuse to be sure. The Edgewood before that little layoff in May, another race where she did not have a very good trip and probably ran better than it looks. I mean, I think more than anything else, she's probably much better than she looks on paper with some excuses to lean on, and she's going to be a price in here.
Now, Chad was planning on running Dolce Zel at Keeneland during the fall meet in the Valley View, and she was scratched by the vet, and Chad was very, very upset about that. And after the race, he said, you know, we're going to regroup. We're going to run in the Winter Memories at Aqueduct in November. Well, that obviously didn't happen. I think it's a good sign, Mike, that he's taking on tougher competition and shipping her all the way out for the Grade 1.
That's a very, very good point for a horse who's dirtied up a little bit too. Listen, you have Irad Ortiz riding. I guess that could pull some money her way, but it still feels like she has to be a bettable price in here.
Complete in the field is Avenue de France, the number 10. And this is a horse who's run some nice races. She won the Maybe 2 starts back going 9 furlongs with a pretty competitive 94 Beyer speed figure. And then last time out, she finished behind England's Rose, a race that didn't have a lot of pace, but England's Rose just ran better than she did.
She did. I didn't like the performance from this horse last time, but I liked everything that she did leading up to that, Dan, including the win in the Asinitas over this course and distance back in the summer. She ran really well that day to run down Hamwood Flyer in the stretch. To me, that just makes me want to be a little forgiving of her most recent start. If she's a price, I want to use her.
Before we get to our top picks, please click the subscribe button on the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel for the latest DRF videos. Top pick time for the Matriarch. We have all the respect in the world for Regal Glory and the year she's had, but I think there's a possibility that we can get a price in here. England's Rose, I like that she used that last race as, I think, a prep, and she was running on at the end. I think she's a little better than she looks on paper. The price has got to be right, Mike.
Yeah, those are all the things that sort of conspired to me wanting to take a shot with her here, Dan. I think she is also, I think she's going to get a setup in here with Hamwood Flyer in the race. I think this pace has to be fast, even if nobody else goes, and that's only going to help this horse.
Like Mike said, Dolce Zel might be a little bit dirtied up. I like that Chad decided to run here after that scratch in the Valley View. And while she doesn't need the lead to win and is a stalker that could benefit from a fast pace, she's also not a true one-run closer that could be at the mercy of kind of trip luck. So I think Dolce Zel might get the jump on some of the closers turning for home. 2-6-10-9 for Mike, 9-5-7-6 for me. What a quality edition of the Grade 1 Matriarch at Del Mar on Sunday. Best of luck.